Thank you and good morning to all of you. The second day of March, a day when an African country in Morocco are celebrating independence since they acquired it from the French government in 1956 after declaration in Paris. But we are here to make sure that we continuously drive your businesses. I'm Joran Paul Sonko.
And Rita Cavanier, and also good morning to everyone who was born on Saturday. We definitely have to celebrate you because without you, maybe you couldn't be watching us. So happy birthday to anyone born today.
All right, and still on the show today, we shall be looking at many of the businesses that are making headlines in terms of the business stories. We shall be looking at refugees. Furthermore, we shall be looking at money for the elderly. And on today's show as well, we shall take a look at the electronic passports. We shall have a look at refugees further and also look at the SMB across. A look at what is happening from the world of the internet and data. So with that, we shall also be getting an in-depth analysis in matters regarding women in business, transforming women. It is a month for the women. Welcome on board. This is SMB.
And speaking of that, right now, let us head into what is happening in regards to the latest updates from the business community around the country, whereby the over 2016 people will be benefiting from 50 million US dollars following the president's directive. Now, speaking to journalists yesterday at Media Center, the Minister for State for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Honorable Esther Anyakun, said that the government has planned for over 2016 people who will be shifting from Chigezi, Rwenzori, Kisoro districts because of the fragmentation of land. Let us have more on this. We do return to discuss with you in this matter.
The Minister of State for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees, Honorable Esther Davinia Anyaku, has updated general public on the disaster preparedness situation in the Court of March. Speaking to journalists at the UGANDA Media Center, the government has planned for over 20,016 people to be shifted from Chigezi, Rwenzori, Kisoro districts due to fragmentation of land. Anyaku said that His Excellency Yoweri Dr. Museveni gave a directive of 50 million US dollars to cater for those situations. However, 2 billion shillings allocated annually, though they have not yet achieved from Ministry of Finance.
Every time we have catastrophic issues on disaster, but on a quarterly basis, we've been spending around 2 billion shillings, which is not also achieved. But most of our budget depends on the release we get from the Ministry of Finance. Although even right now we've just been in a meeting discussing with the top management office of with the Prime Minister on the disaster risk management plan that we have been working on, and any time from now it will be taken to cabinet for approval, where His Excellency the President gave us a directive of around 50 million US dollars for preparations of disaster risk management issues.
In addition, Minister Anyaku also said in this quarter of March they are using 20 billion shillings to fight the coming disasters in a way of shifting them.
Billion okubanga zituswala paka wetuna sobola okuyamba abantu 50 billion sente za 50 billion zenayogedeko eza dollar. Museveni yayagadde His Excellency the President yayagadde tulabe wetunasobola okubeera ne response plans short term, mid term ne long term.
She clarified the land fragmentation in Kisoro. People do not want to change them from their prices.
In Kisoro is fragmented, and we're trying to see how we can relocate these people to their places, because the challenge we have another is people don't want to be relocated to other districts or to other locations. They want to be put from within their localities, and also we're trying to see how we can urbanize the issue of IDPs than taking them to very far places where they're not in position to handle.
Story compiled by Samuel Chiramunda for Smart 24 Prime.
Thank you, Samuel Chiramunda, there for compiling that particular report. And just what you might need to know is that government launched that resettlement projects in 2019 by Prime Minister Honorable Ruhakana Rugunda, and this was targeting for the beginning or initially around 7,200 people out of their 100,000 landslide victims that were evacuated or were meant to be affected from Bududa areas, and we are seeing now government has taken it upon to be an annual plan that is in regard for the financial years around the country to plan more on resettlement or relocation of other people, because we're experiencing rainy seasons, we're experiencing disasters each year, because these are natural calamities that have to come, and you know, at some point you may not have to dodge them. For example, heavy downpour around Bududa areas, and now we have got Kasese floodings, we have got land fragmentation now that is already showing around because of heavy downpours. So you will realize that people are going to, they're going under threats at some point. They have got fear, maybe something will be coming their way.
Well, and also looking at the fact that there is money that has been put in place to help these particular people who have actually been hit by the disaster, let's say floods, the floodings that normally happen in areas of Kisoro. People, they've also mentioned of Bududa and all those regions. So the only worry here is that government says that some of these people don't want to leave their area of residence. They don't want to leave their homeland so that they can actually go on to a place that has actually been designated by the government. So when you look at that, I think...
And that's right, because scenarios were happening, for example, some recent years where government was trying to relocate, a case in point, people in Bududa areas after landslides had, you know, happened. But people were refusing to go, even when it comes out to highlight on them, this is coming, can you try to reshift, can you try to find any new areas? People just feel bad. I think it's a natural feeling. You've grown up from that particular place, Joram. You have raised children around there. You have grown attending school from those particular areas, and the case happens that you have to relocate or you have to shift. What comes into your mind first? Of course, there has to be resistance. But if you resist a lot or for quite some time, that means you're also denying change to happen.
All right, and in most cases, one of the reasons as to why most of these people do give is that scenarios whereby they are supposed to be displaced off their land because of the natural calamities. They claim that the government land or the reserved land that government takes them to may not be as fertile as the one they've been used to. For instance, with the people in Bududa, when they were being relocated, they were saying their lands, their soils were very, very fertile, and where they were actually heading to at the different camps, there was no fertile soil.
But you can imagine that kind of life. You have got a life, you have got a family that you're looking after, and time comes when you have to relocate, you have to shift. You're going to be looked different, first of all. It's not going to be deniable from the society. Yes, the society we go to or you have to shift to will look at you as even, in fact, they call you even refugees. And yet this is even your country. But the society tends to put a discrimination kind of, entity or situation into people's lives, and they feel like they're kind of different because they're even moving from one place to another. But just to talk on the project, it is a resettlement plan that actually involves establishment of urban centers around areas that are areas in the risk of landslides, establishment of large resettlement schemes within maybe Bugisu sub-region, for example, to take care of case in point for Bududa. We have got now, the Prime Minister was highlighting in some recent reports on how at least they are going to be expanding or identifying areas around Kasese for people to relocate, and we have seen support of government around that, within that areas. But the challenge has been, yes, government may put up temporary structures, because most of the time there are temporary structures where they've got maybe tents around, and they're being put there for people to resettle there. But the challenge has always been weather again. You're running away from a weather calamity,
and then you meet it somewhere else. And then there's also been a challenge that when the president gave in these guidelines of $50 million, when you look at this, is that the Ministry of Finance is yet to actually approve that. or to actually send in the money. So they are still waiting on the Ministry of Finance to get that money so that they can easily relocate and help in the long term, because the minister says they're not looking at only short term. They do expect that maybe they will have this pool or some of the money that will remain to actually keep it for the future
I don't think
use,
if they are really budgeting, if they are budgeting fairly, that money to to have even a balance or a reminder or even maybe a change of it, I don't think that money should have changed according to what is happening. Remember, there are people who have been relocated earlier on. Let us not look at the people they are going to relocate now, around 2016 people. But how about the 7,000? How about the other 10,000 people that were being relocated in the recent years? Are they still getting support that the government promised? You will realize there were reports and also allegations that, because this is not even an allegation, it was a media report showing how government relocated a certain group from Bududa area to Nakasongola Primary School. And when, not primary school, a certain school in Nakasongola district. And when schools reopened, people tended to have nowhere to go because the provision of another relocation was not there at the point. And then that limited another service for schools to go and attend, or for learners to go and attend school. So can there always be maybe a very effective plan, a very revised effective plan, if it needs Ministry for Disaster to involve some other players or other people to plan better for these relocations? Because you will realize also there are wrangles that are happening in media reportings around resettlements of people that are relocated around the country. People who complain about the land at some point. You hear government relocated people, and after 20 years, some tycoon comes and says, okay, you know what, this is my land. So there are land wrangles that are happening and conflictions going in around. But what is the fate of the people that have been now put there? That is going to trigger their mind at some point.
Because when you actually refer to that, some of them feel that after being relocated to these areas, government also tends to forget about them. Once they're already relocated and maybe given the very fast relief funds that will be of help.
Exactly.
And then at the end of the day, government will forget about them. Not until maybe the media comes in, or some of the non-government organizations cry on their behalf.
To put a torch there. But as I conclude on this one, Joram, we should also consider the fact that even as we relocate to other areas, can you bear in mind, for example, now, they have not yet relocated. Government is planning for you to move to the next destination. What is your plan as an individual? What is, you could be having someone living around those areas. You could share with them what is their plan in regards to sustainability, because government will give you, yes, a hand at first, but it's not going to keep sustaining you. There has to be a way you have to encourage yourself, you have to promote yourself on making sure that you eat, you feed your family at some point. So do not always wait for government, you know. It has put you in a place. Can you be business-oriented people and start up maybe some business within you, production within you, sharing?
Why? Because you're already in a trauma, and it becomes very difficult for you to fast adapt to a very quick lifestyle, because but you're already in shock of some of the events that have been happening.
For the strong.
For the strong-hearted.
No, I want to try to give my proverb here.
Okay.
For the strong will survive. For the weak will always keep complaining. You get? So do not put the traumatization of your brain, of your mind to your body that it cannot no longer do work. Do not put it there. Can you at least have a plan prior now, so that you put something at the end of the day to sustain yourself or sustain your families? That's what I have to say about that. But for those who are going to be beneficiaries or benefiting from this $50 million US, I just wish government would really put a proper plan, and also a very long-term plan, like they say. I'll wait on that. I will wait on that.
There have been relief funds that have always been laid on board. Well, but away from that, still with our news reports here, coming up on SMB, from the local perspective, Let's look at the other report coming in from Parliament, as the money for the elderly is actually creating in a heating up topic, as the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection has had discussions with different members of Parliament to pave way on how they could increase money given to the elder people from 25,000 to 30,000. But this has shown more concerns over earlier reports of 27 billions that is yet to be paid. Let's have a look at this.
Under the Social Assistance Grants for Empowerment through Senior Citizens Scheme, each older person receives 25,000 shillings, but members of Parliament under the Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection want this money to be increased to 30,000 shillings.
Not to do much now, but from what from this presentation, you can see that just 25,000 has transformed the lives of these older persons. How I wish we could decrease this to 30,000. I would be happy.
However, these older persons, sometimes they delay getting this money, which is 27 billion shillings, that is not released. It's now 8 months minus getting their money, and yet it helps them to survive.
One of the challenges is the delay. As we talk, it's coming to 8 months without remitting this money to the elderly people. They are starving, some of them are dying before receiving this money. So we are calling upon government to ensure that they fulfill this commitment that we met the elderly. It has been reported that we already have areas to a tune of 27 billion. We are calling upon government to make it a priority. None of us will not fall into that trap. So as we still hold the microphone, as we still hold the power to influence decisions.
Member of Parliament Budyope West Honorable Ibrahim Choto raises other concerns of long distances. Elders move to get registered to receive this money, yet these people are very old and have no money, and sometimes it's expensive to register.
This older person are paid 25,000 per month. You subject someone to go and open up a bank account. That is in Kamuli, that is the nearest point. If you are to leave Buyende to come to Kamuli, you are supposed to pay something like 10,000 in transport. Then going back, that is another 10,000. You come to Kamuli to pick 25,000 and you spend 20,000. Is that one economical? Then you go with 5,000. The only alternative in this, you can either use a mobile money, if not that, let the bank move and go to the people.
In response to members of Parliament, Stephen Kasaija, head of Program Management Unit, says that when they were to pay, finance interrupted, and that's why they got.
There was delay in the payment, 6 months, 8 months. Yes, now this delay is forced on us. For this financial year, we already have all the money. Government has given us the cash. Because even in the first quarter, we had negotiated for an additional 30 billion to try and cover off some of those areas. It's only when we reached to pay, we went to consult finance, because the auditors are recommended to consult finance, because we are using money of this current financial year to pay areas of last year. That's when we got that snag, finance saying, no, you can't. This has to be an area and has to be budgeted in the next year. Otherwise, they had even released the money to us. We have it on the account, ready to pay these people. So it's not that the money is not around. It would have been. Then what it would mean, the supplementary, that money would be replaced as the financial year ends, as a supplementary to cover the gap. Because otherwise they had front-loaded the money for us.
This was still a lot because it was based on the sub-county. And the discussion was that it should be taken to the parish. And that is where the direction is going. So if there are people who are moving away from the parish, they can't get to the sub-county, and then are going further to out of the sub-county, I think this is something that we need to make inquiries on so that we see what can be done about it.
Well, if you are an elderly or if I told you on the committee, would you accept to give these people 25,000 a month? Surprisingly, it has actually helped change lives. Yes, per month. But I'm looking at 25,000, and some saying it has transformed their lives. Well, for people in the city who will say 25,000 looks less.
But again, it's the elderly. From the experience I know, because my auntie is a beneficiary, and she does not get 25,000 a month. She doesn't. I think this money is calculated weekly, because I remember it's 100, around 100 and 110. That's what she gets every month. And that's what she gets every month, money for the elderly.
How
so
old
I think
is she?
at 25.
Because
she's old.
with what is actually...
She's old. She's around, what is the age bracket?
Here they're giving the 25,000 grand per month, which currently stands for 80 years and above.
Okay,
so,
then. That is for the 80 years. Okay, then. Away from that 25 of the 80, because she's not 80. She's not 80. Because this is the one for the senior citizens, the first target group that they were targeting for this particular program, where they were providing 100,000. But now that's another bracket of ranging from 80 years and above, right? For 25.
25,000. Now, MPs
okay, what
wanted
would 25,000? What would 25 to 30,000? Because the difference is just less of 5,000 or more of 5,000. What can it do? What can it add on the life of an 80-year? Well, after a month.
That is the bigger worry that the Parliamentary Forum is looking at, that 25,000 may not be enough for these elderly people, regardless of the fact that we may look at it in let's say in a context where we would think that maybe they have less needs, less of the basic needs at that age. But 25,000 Ugandan shillings becomes quite little for them. And if you could see, if at all someone is only benefiting on that 25,000, and maybe the elderly is maybe sick on bed or all that, you would see that the 25,000 may be less than the amount that would actually be of help to them.
You will realize that this is going to create now a difference. Remember the first project that government created for the 65 years and above, 65 years. They called them the senior citizens of the country. And they were being given a grant. And not only that, but even the vulnerable people between that age bracket were given assistance after a month. You know why? Because we've got family. And it's not deniable, Joram. When you give birth, the generation goes on. People tend to forget you, actually. If you do not lose your children, if you do not lose, maybe if you're not even given birth, you will lose those children at some point if you do not die. I mean, that's a reality, a life reality. And you will realize most of families in rural areas, especially when maybe children, siblings tend to go away and go to the cities to find greener pastures, they tend to take long time, minus, providing assistance or giving in something to their mothers or to their even fathers. So you find there is that abduction and there is that neglection within taking care of our elderly people or taking care of my grandmother, my grandfather. So government came out with the program to sustain development among them, because it's not that at 65 years, Sonko, your journey of life has ended. No, at 65 you can still continue driving business.
Definitely.
You can still continue at 65 years. You can continue maybe going to the garden if you can. So,
there's actually been a claim that over 54,000 elderly persons miss monthly grant over national ID issues.
Very well, and that is right. And not even national ID issues. There are a lot number of factors, quite a number, why my auntie or why my grandmother would miss out. Number one, if there is no any muzukulu at home, and that
Who's
day
going to help me
comes,
follow up?
And that day comes, and maybe the grandmother or the aunt is sick, or that particular person is sick, is going to miss out the information. Number two, if there is no one going to escort them you're going to miss out, because they do not give that fund if you, in case you do not have a really evidential directive from that particular person. What if he's dead? And then you're continuing to pick money. So there is a lot of bukwakulis, or a lot of guidelines following the SURGE program, that is the social grant for the elderly. And now with this one coming, as I conclude, I just hope, I mean, they say, akatono kakolati? At least you, at least you receive the little.
Even going to ask 25,000. If these people can actually use 25,000 to develop themselves, then how can we use this 25,000 here? Because it seems it's quite good money.
It is, according to them. I mean, what would an 80-year-old, or Tagenda Kola? He just need maybe a sugar, not a sugar. Need sugar, maybe some bit of soap. Some bit of maybe if he,
because most of them have the farms that give them the food.
Maybe if he has craved maybe meat once in a month, it's
and they
good.
rarely take a lot
water,
of fried things, so they go for boiled, most of them.
So it is quite helping them. So do not rely on the money being little, but rather let us advocate also for now, for the addition of 30, perhaps it would help better.
Yeah, we do have grandmothers and we do have grandfathers, so we'll definitely want them to receive a grant more than the 25,000. Well, grab that cup of coffee and tea, because we are still rolling here on SMB. And coming up after the break, we are heading into the SMB across borders to take a look at the business stories making headlines in terms of the African continent and the world at large. Stick around.